Thank you for joining us for this update on Hurricane Milton. I'm Ken Welch, Mayor of the City of St. Petersburg. I'm joined today by our Emergency Management Manager, Amber Bolding, as well as our St. Pete team. I also want to thank State Senator Darrell Roussan for joining us. Hurricane Milton is quickly approaching our state as a Category 4 storm and is expected to make landfall just south of the Tampa Bay area. This is an extremely dangerous threat to our area, and I urge you to finish all of your preparation efforts as soon as possible. We are expecting between 8 to 12 feet of storm surge and winds up to 100 miles per hour. We anticipate that we will begin to feel the impacts from Milton in the next few hours. If you have not evacuated yet, you are quickly running out of time and need to get to a safe place immediately. Whether that's a shelter or a friend's house, now is the time to figure out where you will shelter as the storm passes and take action now. When significant sustained winds arrive, our first responders will not be able to respond to calls for help until after the storm moves through our area. The county has opened additional shelters in St. Pete at New Heights Elementary School and Fairmont Park Elementary as well. Shelters will not turn you away and are open for you as a safe place to be during this hurricane. If you need assistance getting to a shelter, please call the County Information Center at 727-464-4333. That's 727-464-4333. Please check disaster.pinellas.gov for the most updated list of shelters and their occupancies, and use the resources available to you. It could be life-saving. I want to talk about services. I want residents to be prepared that services like water, sewer, and electric service may be offline for an extended period following Hurricane Milton. Because of the sustained hurricane-force winds, we are expecting extensive damage to our infrastructure, including widespread power outages that may not be restored for days or for weeks, depending on the level of damage. The city does not, however, have plans to preemptively shut down drinking water, but we may need to take down the wastewater facilities depending on the level of storm surge and related damage. The decision to bring those facilities offline will depend on how long staff can safely remain on the premises at those facilities. When the winds and water start to pick up, we will need to protect our staff and remove them from those facilities. Staff will return to the plant as soon as it is safe to do so after the storm has passed. Now, these potential impacts to our water, power, and transportation systems are the reason that everyone should have a disaster supply kit to sustain you for at least 7 days. This is the reality of a direct hit from a powerful hurricane in our area. This is not a storm that we will recover from quickly. We have a long road ahead of us, but we will recover and we will rebuild together. We will all need to be patient and help our neighbors and our family members. But for the next several hours, our focus is to keep everyone safe, and we can do that. Once again, I'm urging everyone to take the storm seriously. It is quickly approaching, and the window to prepare is closing very quickly. We only have a matter of hours at this point. Our city team will be here before, during, and after the storm. We're staffing the EOC at full capacity for the next 24 hours, and we will be here to manage the recovery of our beautiful city after the storm. I'll now turn it over to Yolanda for a Spanish translation, and she'll be followed by Amber. Yolanda.
El huracán Milton se acerca rápidamente a nuestro estado y espera que toque tierra como tormenta de categoría 3 o 4 justo al sur de la bahía de Tampa. Esperamos entre 8 y 12 pies de marejada ciclónica y vientos hasta 100 millas por hora. Si aún no ha evacuado, ya le está acabando el tiempo y necesita ir a un lugar seguro inmediatamente, ya sea un refugio o la casa de un amigo. Ahora es el momento de buscar refugio hasta que pase la tormenta. Va a haber un momento cuando los socorristas no podrán rescatarlo hasta después que pase la tormenta. El condado ha abierto refugios adicionales en St. Petersburg, en New Heights Elementary School y Fairmount Park Elementary School. Los refugios no les rechazarán. Si necesita ayuda para llegar, por favor llame al Centro de Información del Condado al 727-464-4333. También quiero que los residentes estén preparados que los servicios como el agua y la electricidad pueden estar fuera de uso durante días después del huracán. Su paciencia va a ser muy necesaria durante el proceso de recuperación. Tenemos un largo camino por delante, pero lo haremos juntos. Estaremos aquí para garantizar que podamos recuperar nuestra hermosa ciudad rápidamente después de la tormenta.
Good afternoon. We're entering the period where we're watching the final approach of Hurricane Milton to the Tampa Bay area. We're closely watching the small jogs to the south, to the north, and we're in constant contact with our partners at the National Weather Service to truly understand what those movements mean for the city of St. Petersburg. But regardless of these jogs, we are preparing, and I'll say that again, we are preparing for and we expect to receive direct impacts from a major hurricane. This means potential storm surge up to 12 feet and sustained winds over 100 miles per hour. Most of the significant impacts will begin later this afternoon. It will be a rough night. We're expecting those hurricane force winds to begin around midnight. Conditions should improve mid-morning. The catastrophic surge will occur around and to the south of the eye of the hurricane. The heaviest rains will be to the north of the eye. These heavy rains could cause flash flooding in normally high elevation areas. That's why it's so important that we watch the track in real time of where this storm is. It means so much for the area for St. Pete. On the current forecast track, we would be on the north side of this storm. This means our wind and rain threat is increasing. Please remember, St. Pete remains in the cone of uncertainty. That means we're still in the danger zone to receive the eye of the storm. I hear the sighs of relief when we see those small jogs south. Don't let your guard down. Again, we are expecting impacts, direct impacts from this storm. While miles matter, we remain a short distance from the projected path of the eye of that storm. I'd like to close with a few key messages from the National Hurricane Center that was just released at 11 o'clock. A large area of destructive storm surge with highest inundations of 10 feet or greater is expected along a portion of the west central coast of Florida. If you are in a storm surge warning area, this is an extremely life-threatening situation. Evacuate now. Number 2, devastating hurricane force winds are expected along portions of the west coast of Florida, where a hurricane warning is in effect. Milton is forecast to remain a hurricane while it crosses the Florida peninsula, and life-threatening hurricane force winds, especially in the gusts, are expected to spread inland across the peninsula. Preparations to protect life and property, including being ready for a long-duration power outages, should be rushed to completion. And finally, heavy rainfall across the Florida peninsula through Thursday brings a risk of catastrophic and life-threatening flash and urban flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Take any questions?
Hi, Mayor. Yeah, the potential sewage shutdowns. Can you talk about, is the Northeast sewage plant just expected to go offline, and could folks get like a little notice, like, hey, we're looking at maybe 30 minutes to make a decision, anything like that?
We definitely plan to give notice, whether we shut down the Northeast or the Southwest plant. Right now, there's still a lot of uncertainty, depending on where the storm hits as to what kind of storm surge we'll see. So we're going to be watching this. We're watching the track. We're going to be watching the storm surge, watching the winds very closely to determine what we're going to do. Our number one priority, though, is to protect our operators. We've got to get them off site. If we see 5, 6, 7 feet of water on that site, those operators are at risk. And so we'll be making the decision when it is appropriate, and we will be messaging it.
So if you're saying 5, 6, 7 feet, and you've got all those folks, I mean, will people get a notice saying, hey, in 20 minutes, we're gonna pull it, or you'll just get a notice saying, it's done, it's over?
You'll get a notice that we are shutting the plant down.
Okay, so there will be some time between when the notice comes out and when the plant actually shuts down?
Yes, there will be some time. So when we make the decision to shut it down, we'll send the notice out. And the actual time to actually shut down the plant will take 20, 30 minutes.
Okay, so when the notice goes out, that's the window, 20, 30 minutes?
It should be approximately that, yes.
Okay, and you mentioned yesterday that there's like, in the southwest plant, there's some capacity to flush toilets. Is that the same situation as the northeast plant?
So
What's the difference between these two?
well, there's no difference between the two. What we know is that we have a lot of people evacuated. A lot of people are not going to be using their systems. And so therefore, we know that in our collection system, there's some capacity there that if an individual decides they must flush the toilet, it shouldn't be a problem. But again, we are asking people, please do not use your sewer system if the plants go off.
Now, for both plants, for the northeast and southwest, just try not to use it at all.
Try not to use it at all, but we recognize that there are emergencies, and if you need to, you should be able to do so safely. But again, we're not looking at everybody using it at the same time. So that's why we're asking people, be sure to evacuate.
What's the status with the northwest plant? Would that be affected at all?
No. It's at a higher elevation.
Okay. All right. I have a question on cranes.
Okay.
From yesterday, the impact zones from the cranes, those were determined based on height, or how are those boundaries drawn? Like, and is the pier then collapsing or swinging around? What is the exact language?
So I'm going to call forward our City Development Administrator, James Corbett, and I failed to introduce Claude Tankersley, our Public Works Administrator, answered the last question for folks watching at home. James?
Thank you, Mayor. The determination of the areas of impact for the cranes is based on height and where the crane is located. So, for instance, if the crane is located on the south side of the building, the impact zone on the north side of the building would be less because of the reach of the crane, as well as the building being in between the crane. So that's how we determine that. If the cranes were to fail, it could be a combination of things. The most likely failure would be what's called the jib arm, which is the area that extends out from the crane. That's the area that's not supported. That would be the most likely point of failure if they were to fail.
And a point of failure is falling, or breaking in half, or collapse?
Failure would be no longer being connected to the actual crane arm itself.
Okay, so it would fall.
It could fall, it could fly. I mean, right. All of those are possible without knowing the conditions.
Okay, and was there anything between today and yesterday on the cranes or mitigation or anything in place, or it's still status quo?
It's still the same status. We're comfortable for all the cranes up to 100 miles per hour. After winds reach a level of more than 100 miles per hour sustained, we do have some concerns, but nothing has changed as far as the status of the cranes.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.